to Between Sundays. I'm Tyler, and you spill over my heart bucket every week, friend of the pod. Today we're doing a heart check to see whether we can do the impossible. But before we love our enemies, now that they've storm-proofed their houses on the rock, let's welcome in our favorite spiritual cardiologists, Amy and Barry. Good day, guys.
Ready for surgery.
And Dave's here.
Yay! Here I am.
Dave, it's been a while.
It has been way long.
Yeah. We took like a year off, and then who knows how long before that you were here. So
I'm
welcome
ancient.
back.
I was old. Now I'm ancient.
Yeah, welcome back. First off, what's new? How have you been?
Good. Yeah, real good. Nothing major happening.
Nothing major?
I entered my last year in my 60s last Monday.
No way.
69 years old.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Which is hard to believe.
Yeah. How are you feeling? Are you feeling
terrible about that?
Yeah.
No, I'm feeling pretty good. I've actually made this year commitment to get things in order by the time I turn 70.
Okay.
So
yeah.
That's good. That's good.
I'm working on it. I'm on day 8.
Day 8.
So far, so good.
You should tell people how Destiny Works is going and what it is, because people ask me all the time about how your retirement is going. And I'm like, well,
first of all, can we just right here and now remind people I am not retired?
No.
The hard thing is because people say how I did retire from ministry.
Yeah. Pastoral ministry.
Ministry. But I work full time. I launched Destiny Works, and the best way to describe what we do is our target client or group. It's not demographic. It's not geographic. It's psychographic.
Oh,
meaning people who find themselves in a liminal space between what they used to be and what they're not yet. So we meet people in that place, whether it's an organization, a company, or an individual, and help them figure out, who am I to be now? So that's what we do. It's been doing that now for 5 years.
yeah. Are you traveling a lot?
I will be in the fall again because 2 of my clients are fraternities. What?
Yeah.
Didn't see that coming.
Collegiate fraternities.
Frat boy Dave.
Frat boy. And actually, they honor initiated me, so I am a frat boy now. So yeah.
Exciting.
Can you show us the handshake? Secret handshake?
I can't do that.
He's not allowed to do that.
I'm not allowed to do
That's
that.
against the rules.
But there are several guys from our fraternity who attend Grace,
Cool.
Oh,
including Marcus.
Oh,
Marcus.
Marcus is an
There you
ATO,
go.
so
Yes,
Marcus
he
and I
is.
are ATOs. Yeah. So at any rate, so that I'll be traveling this fall and spring when school is in.
Oh yeah, right.
How's grandpa life?
Oh, that's the best.
That's the best?
Absolutely the best.
Yeah. What do they call you? Do they call you grandpa?
Papa. Yep. And so Piper has a thing where she has to see me just about every morning.
Oh yeah. That is the best.
That's
And it's really
cute.
irritated to Penny.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because Penny will answer the phone, she'll go, "Where's Papa?"
Oh yeah.
It's
That's
constant.
nice.
And then she does weird, I don't know if you've seen this, Barry, but she does very weird things. Whenever she sees me, she hits herself on the head.
Well, I've
She
been
goes,
doing-
and then she falls and
Penny
giggles.
or Piper?
Piper does. No, Penny hits me on the head
yeah,
when
right,
Penny
yeah.
sees me. No, Piper
her
is a
silly
2-year-old.
laughing and
she
silly.
gets real silly when
Yeah.
she sees me. She's a
course.
2-year-old terrorist.
Yeah. Well, they all are kind of
all
at that
are,
age,
yeah.
I think. A
Yeah,
little
I
bit.
said to her yesterday, she was in church yesterday. I said, "You going to go to your class?" No.
Oh.
No.
I said, "What if Papa goes with you sometime?" No.
Mm.
That's Piper.
Yeah.
She sounds like she's a woman who knows what she wants to do and what she doesn't
Is
want to
it
do.
possible to note that a 2-year-old's an 8 on the Enneagram already? Yeah, she
You
is.
can only hope.
Great.
Yeah.
It's great. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
It's one of the highlights of life right now.
I love
We
that.
have a, what is she? 15 months?
Yeah.
14 months?
Yeah.
14-month-old. And her new thing is she for those not watching, she'll cross her arms. She'll go, "No,
Oh.
no."
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
And it's cute now, but it's going to be
Won't be.
super annoying in about a year and a half.
Yeah, that's so what we feel too.
Hey, wait till they're 23 and they're doing that. It's really annoying. It's really annoying. Not cute anymore.
No.
Keep
Yeah.
telling him that.
yeah.
This is a problem.
Yeah, a big one.
Yeah.
Big one.
That's a
There you
new
go.
one.
That was
Yeah.
you
From this
yesterday.
week, I think I said that.
You made the
Wow.
soundboard.
Yeah.
Tyler, you are on the sounds.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah. Guys, what's new with you? How you guys doing?
There are 2 feelings physical feelings that I associate with summer.
Anger is my go-to.
Not anger, physical feelings. There are two physical feelings. One of them is gushing sweat, which to me, like I'm already a sweaty guy when it's hot, and because I'm always outside feeding the pigs, mowing, whatever. I just walk outside now and it just drains off my body. And so I'm used to just being soaking wet all the time.
Gushing sweat.
And the other feeling, which
I'm a sweaty mess.
Oh my word!
that was
Why do I
very
have?
specific.
I actually, when I preach, know exactly what you're going to pull.
You do?
Yeah, I do. I sometimes throw things in there just for you.
Of course. The other feeling, and I've got it going on right now, is poison ivy, which I am not contagious anymore.
Okay.
Jeez. Amy's
Wait.
like, I'm like
Like
on this end of the table.
sweat and poison ivy. Right
So
next
a
to
week
me.
ago, I noticed you had poison ivy. Did
that
you
was
get it
round
again?
one. This is
so you
round
got
two,
it
and it's way
again?
worse. Yeah.
Oh.
And I don't know what, I wash thoroughly with like dish soap because I heard that's what you're supposed to do. I'm going to have to look for something else
Are
because it
you
did not
allergic
work.
to it?
Well, clearly.
Because you are allergic to it, Dave. You
you remember your wedding?
I will never forget. As a matter of fact, I had my anniversary and Penny wrote on my thing. Do you remember that Dave had terrible poison ivy on social media so everyone could see?
Yeah, it was
Terrible,
awful.
like
Barry,
on your face and everything.
But Barry, when you were growing up, you used to play army out in the woods with crawling through.
Well, we didn't know. My buddy Marshall and I got the worst poison ivy attack of our lives that back in middle school because we were filming a war movie where we're both lying prone in a bed of just an absolute bed of poison ivy.
Wow, like little Steven Spielberg.
Yep, didn't pan out, but
I guess not.
Anyway, so those two feelings, I'm just like I'm just going to be uncomfortable
until
in the summer,
November.
Yeah,
because it stays hot for a long time.
So I'm just going to be sweaty
Itchy.
and itchy.
Yeah,
summer. So that's how I'm doing.
Someone's going to scratch my itch.
And it's going to be me all day long.
How did you find those?
He's on it.
You guys say him.
This is all Tyler does all day, every day.
I'm just preparing for what might be said.
He does soundbite drills.
He does not. He's like,
he listens to news and he's like, anytime he gets a keyword.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Amy, what's new with you?
I'm trying to think if anything fun has happened in the last week. I don't really think so. We've got a lawn pass to Ruoff, so it feels
Every
like
concert.
it just feels like we're out there all the time. I'm too old. I'm just so tired.
Wait, you actually can buy a pass for the whole season?
Yes, it's ridiculous.
And it's cheap, isn't it?
Yeah, it's real cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, like you go to 3 concerts and you more than paid for it, but you're on the lawn with 4 billion people.
Yeah. And so every style, you go to every style of concert?
Well, we pick and choose. Like we went to Dave Matthews and we're done now until a week from Wednesday. That's
when the thrash metal band is playing.
That's when the screamo comes. Real into the screamo stuff. But I mean, the nice thing about lawn pass is you can go in anytime you want and you can leave and you don't feel bad because you've already paid for it. So we go sometimes at 7:30 and leave at 9. It's great.
I have fond, awful memories of there.
When it was Deer Creek.
Easter at Grace?
Yeah.
Easter at Grace was
Twice.
at Deer Creek, right?
I smile and then I cringe.
Yeah, well, there were some real cringeworthy moments during those services. So
it was a different time, guys.
Yeah,
it was a different time.
It was definitely a different time.
It was the late 90s or the early 2000s,
It was. Yeah, we were trying all sorts of stuff that some of it worked well and some of it didn't work well at all.
Not so much.
Yeah. So I feel like, I don't know, June went really fast. That's what I'll say. Like it feels like June is over and
back to school.
I mean, honestly, Maggie will go back for her final year of high school on August 5th.
Yeah.
And that feels like so early. So feels like summer is half over for kids in school. So
speaking of itchiness.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed this last week, but this time last week when we recorded the podcast and into Tuesday, so I had lunch at Jimmy John's or something. I had a sandwich.
And you had an allergic reaction.
My bottom lip swelled up.
So did your top one.
And then I had Chick-fil-A that night and my top lip swelled up. So I ate 2 different times and both my lips did not swell up at the same time.
I actually
one
couldn't stop looking at it.
Okay.
And I didn't want to say anything mean. I didn't want to, but I was like, wow, what is going on?
Had Botox or something?
I thought you got lip filler. I was
did?
like, well, no, I didn't think that. I was like, did he? I was wondering.
No,
I
it was
was
terrible.
like, I thought maybe you had a terrible canker sore or something because I've had those in my lip. No, my lips do. They swell up.
That
It
is
hurt.
so
Yeah.
funny.
I
it's 'cause
couldn't take my eyes
So what-
off of it, and I didn't
wasn't
want you to
that
see
bad.
me
It just
looking.
was-
Yeah.
Okay, it
Okay,
wasn't
why?
that bad.
I don't know.
You didn't figure it out.
No, I've
better
had
get that
both.
checked out.
I've had both things since that time because I was like, maybe I'm all of a sudden allergic to like bread or something.
Oh,
To
man.
It
Jimmy
was a
John's
sandwich.
and Chick-fil-A.
It was a sandwich and chicken sandwich. So it's like maybe all of a sudden I'm allergic to bread, but then I had,
Maybe you have celiac. Isn't that?
but I've had those things since then and no
Mm.
problems.
Mm.
But the Chick-fil-A one, I had it for dinner and it swelled my top lip up for like 24 hours.
Wow.
I know because I noticed it Tuesday
Yeah,
too.
Tuesday, yeah.
And then you shaved. So like it was even more noticeable
Very, very
in between
prominent.
Monday and Tuesday. Like I was like, why'd you do that, dummy?
That's so
Look at my
funny.
lip. Look at my lip.
Draw attention
And
to
why
it.
didn't you say anything? Like if that happened to me and I knew that people were like, ooh, what's going
You
on?
would
I
have
would've-
explained yourself before you even came in the room. You
Oh,
would've
I would
been-
have been like, hey, everyone, just so you know, nothing really horrible's happened. I'm
Yeah.
having some kind of allergic. I totally would have told people.
I didn't know what it was.
Well, you needed to tell me because I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like, what's wrong with Tyler?
Yeah. A number of people since then, I've told this story to, and they're like, I was wondering, I thought you
See?
like had dental work done and you just,
That's why you lead with it. You're like, look, I know this looks
I
kind
know,
of weird.
blah, blah, blah.
Yes, exactly.
I didn't know, like, I thought I could hide it.
You
I kept-
couldn't.
No.
Well, the reason everybody is going down that list is because we all just
Yeah.
assume, okay, if he's not saying something,
Yeah.
it must be on
Something
purpose.
really, or something like terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah.
No,
You gotta-
I don't know. But
Glad your lips are back to normal,
yeah,
Tyler. And
I don't know. I'll let you know if
Good
it happens
luck
again.
finding
Well,
out.
you won't need to let us know. We'll know.
You'll
If
know.
it happens again,
Yeah.
we'll just be like,
Yeah.
what? Chick-fil-A today?
I was having, I remember like recording the podcast and feeling my bottom lip swelling up and being like, I can barely get these questions out because it feels like I've had like, what do you, when you go to the dentist, they
like
numb.
Novocaine.
Yeah, I feel like that's what was happening, but
So
Next
we
time you
just-
go out to eat, we want to go with you
Yeah,
and
exactly.
watch.
Yeah.
Just sit there
And
and
then
watch.
we
see-
could just watch it grow.
yeah. Gosh,
oh, look,
wow.
it's happening
Look,
again.
you guys.
Look.
Yeah.
It's not great.
It's,
Yeah, it
it's
was-
not. Well, I'm glad you're better.
Yeah, I'm all good now.
Was Lauren like, wow, what's wrong with you when you got home
I
from
forget
work?
what she kept calling me. She kept calling me something, but
Platypus?
yeah. So, yeah. It was like, you look like a penguin or something. Yeah,
That's funny. Well, glad
yeah we're
you're
good.
better.
We're good.
But next time, just tell us.
Yeah, give us a heads up.
All right. Well, Dave, you're here because you wrapped up with a finale of our sermon series, Undivided, all about loving our enemies. And you focused on Luke chapter 6, verse 43 through 49, pretty much. So, yeah, we wrapped up week 4. Or do we have one more week? No, we're starting.
This is
starting
week
Summerfest.
5. This is week 5.
Week
that we
5?
just finished.
Yeah, we just finished week
we're
5.
in week 5. All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're in week 5. So, grand finale. Dave, you're here because you gave the sermon. Can you kind of share what the big idea or takeaway you wanted people to walk away with was?
Yeah, we gently landed the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just came in, just drifted
Little
in.
hot. Yeah.
No, the big idea, and really, it's pretty self-evident from what Jesus said, is the condition of your heart will determine whether you're able to do these impossible things.
Yeah.
And I know it's a bit of an exaggeration to say they're impossible. They wouldn't be impossible if he would have, he wouldn't have said them if they were really impossible, but metaphorically, I mean, they're hard to do. So something's got to change internally. Your tree has to be producing good fruit, and the good fruit is how to love your enemy.
Yeah.
That's essentially what I said.
You started the sermon sharing a couple stories of Matthew Eddy. Is that
Yeah.
his name? Matthew
Mhm.
Eddy and Mary Morrissey. And I thought they were great examples of what kind of we're witnessing in our current world. And last week I was watching a show, like kind of reacting to the most recent presidential debate. And the host of the show was saying something to his guests who, like, there was all kind of differing opinions represented. Something to the degree of, if you think my side's elected, it's an imminent threat to the state of our nation and the world. And I think the same thing, just a mirror image. And so his question was basically like, how do we move forward? How do we move forward if we all kind of think the same thing, just like inverse of each other?
Mm-hmm.
And as I was thinking about Matthew Eddy and Mary Morrissey, I was like, well, first of all, 0 of the guests said anything about loving your enemies or compassion or empathy or anything like that. 0 of them. They just kind of mentally retreated to their corners. But it got me thinking about the stories that you shared and the questions we've been asking here. And it made me wonder if Matthew Eddy and Mary Morrissey, were even aware that their hearts are bad. Are they like, do you feel like their motivations and like, do you feel like they're like, I'm going to pour water on this guy's thing because I hate him and I know I have a bad heart? Or was it like,
no,
he's the bad guy, so I'm going to
absolutely, absolutely. Both of them they perceived their enemies as the bad guy.
Yeah.
And they needed to do something to intervene, either to stop them from doing something that would irritate them, the one who's perpetrating it, or to punish them for whatever thing they think they're doing. So, yeah, I mean, their motivation was revenge, protection, payback. That was their motivation. Yeah. And it's astounding. Both of the things they did were outrageous. I used that word several times in the message. They were outrageous.
Yeah.
And they didn't see them as outrageous.
Right.
And I'm not even sure that either of them saw it as outrageous after they were caught.
Right. Because they were executing some kind of justice.
Can you remind me, what did Matthew Eddy do? I remember the water story.
Yeah, he walked on stage. He ran on stage to
right.
stop the guy the superintendent from shaking his daughter's hand.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So whether they just like ignore these bad hearts or motivations, or they're hidden, I guess my ultimate question after watching the show and then listening to the sermon is like, how do we identify and confront hidden resentments and prejudices against our enemies if they're things that, like, if we feel like we're executing some kind of justice, but really the problem is within ourselves? Like, how do we uncover these hidden resentments if they are in fact hidden? Because one of the things I want to come away from this series with is like better understanding of myself, my own convictions of my heart. But I wonder how to do that if some of the things that may be living within me are like hidden. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Well, I think this is where the Holy Spirit comes in. We have to spend some of our energy and focus on actually like opening our heart up to God and saying, what do you see? And like, what's going on in my heart? And this is also where the teachings of Jesus come in, because I think, sure, you can justify, well, yeah, I'm pouring water in that guy's bag because he's a bad guy and he deserves it. But if you look at the teachings of Jesus and hold those up against your actions, and he says, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, like if you have that ability to do that reflection, then suddenly, you can kind of see their own motivation not reflecting what Jesus would say. And I don't know if these people are Christ followers or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's why Jesus was so worked up with the accusation he made. Mm. I think he was looking at him saying, he was exasperated. Yeah. I think and he said, why do you keep saying, Lord, Lord? Why do you keep saying that to me? And you're not doing these things. Right. Because I think he was saying, you're not listening to me. Right. What a parent says to the child, you're not listening.
Yeah. You're just waiting for your turn to talk.
It's a good question. I mean, so I disclosed my own bad heart. Because I yell at the TV, I yell at people, and it's really it's. I don't use profanity, but I'm not very kind. Yeah, I won't say what I say, but I'm not very kind. But my Holy Spirit was sitting on the couch beside me,
Penny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we need more than
your very own Jiminy Cricket.
We absolutely need each other to be honest enough, to say and point out these things. My question is, who pointed this out? Somebody had to know what Mary was doing. Yeah. Somebody had to know that Matthew was capable of this kind of thing and headed him off and saying, don't do that.
Yeah. Cause that was going to be my next question is like, I don't know anybody that is like, yeah, I have a bad heart.
No,
like everybody thinks that they're generally good people.
Well,
right.
And
which is why I use that illustration. And I've heard this many times. Someone's explaining somebody else's bad action saying, oh, you need to understand they have a good heart.
Yeah. And
no, they don't.
That's why I thought of the question. Cause I was like, nobody says I have a bad heart.
Right.
And so is this uncovering this or whatever, is this something that is just between us and God, or is it possible for people to be included somehow in like revealing this stuff to us without us making them our enemies, you know?
I think,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think no matter what, it can't happen if you have no openness to the possibility that you're broken or that you do have a bad heart. Like you have to be willing to ask, which most people are not. Because if you go and we talked about this last week, like with the whole judging others, if you were to go up to someone and be like, hey, I think
You have a
bad heart, or I think you're going to do something that isn't good. Like nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah, right.
Like unless you're a particularly humble person, like you're not going to just get hit out of the blue with criticism and then think, I'm going to take that to heart and reflect on that. You say, no, that's ridiculous. I'm not like that. Yeah.
Because I think the hard thing about this idea of holding your brother or sister accountable is that going back to what we talked about last week, and the fact that, well, okay, thanks for telling me what you think of me. Why don't you take the beam out of your eye before you start talking about the speck in mine? That's where it gets tricky, is like, and I don't know the answer to that. Like, how do you not be self-righteous, judgmental? Like, hey, you really need to work on your heart. That seems to be what you're saying doesn't match what I hope is in your heart. So, and then not come back on you as like, well, who are you to tell me how to, it's very tricky.
I know I've talked about this in years past on this show, but one of the most impactful things I've heard on this, somebody I know was kind of talking about the idea of reconciliation and being self-aware enough to know when like reconciliation is needed between you and someone else. And he was saying, you know, I went to the different people that have some kind of like, that I have some kind of influence. It's not my friends, it's not my family. It's just like my dry cleaner or the guy that, you know, pours my coffee or the waiter or whatever that I see regularly. And he said, I asked them three questions. I said, who am I to you? What do you appreciate about me when I show up? And then where do I disappoint you? Mm-hmm. And he said that he did this with his dry cleaner because he had, you know, he'd gotten to know his dry cleaner pretty well over the years in his mind. And he, you know, would go to the dry cleaner's like kids recitals and whatever, milestones. And so he said, who am I to you? And the dry cleaner was like, you've become more than just a customer. You've become somebody that I've appreciated in my life. You show up to my kids' stuff or whatever. And he's like, okay, what do you appreciate about me? And he said, I really appreciate your loyalty. I appreciate your investment into my family and these kinds of things. And then he said, where do I disappoint you when I show up? And he said, you're not a man of your word. And the guy was like, whoa, okay. And he's like, why do you say that? And he's like, because you say that you're going to pick your clothes up you say Thursday at 5 is when I'm going to pick my clothes up. And because you're this person that I admire so much and has become so like important to me and I respect, I tell other people that I know that you're going to be here at 5 p.m. on Thursday and I want them to come meet you because of how influential you have been in my life. And when you're not here, you make me look like an idiot or you make me look like a liar. And so, if you're asking me the question, like you're not a man of your word. And so he made a ton of changes and how he related to his dry cleaner at that point. He was like, if I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. You know, I'm going to spend extra time there. So if he has people that he wants to meet me or whatever, I'll be there. And one of the takeaways I had was he was invited to do that. I invite you to criticize me, or I invite you to give me the truth about my heart, the state of my heart. Like you're invited to do that. Not anybody can just do it. So, yeah, I thought about that as you were preaching, Dave. I was like, this can't just be a thing like to assess our heart. This can't just be a thing that's like between us and God. This has like, if other people are going to be involved in like revealing this to us, you probably have to do it gently, but also inviting people to do that might be
go seek it out.
Yeah.
Well, if Dallas Willard says that loving your enemies, isn't he the one that said it's the litmus test of discipleship?
Yes.
I mean, that's the highest bar you could set for following, according to Willard, highest bar you could set for following Jesus is loving your enemies. Then if it's that important, it needs to be a matter of accountability and discipleship.
Yeah.
It needs to be, because it's too important.
Yeah. And that makes me wonder, like, is it possible to be a disciple of Jesus if you don't love your enemies?
Why do you call me Lord, Lord, if you don't
That's
do
right.
if you don't do what I say?
Right.
Yeah. And I'm telling you to love your enemies, and if you don't do it, you're basically being a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Well, or don't, at least you're trying. If you're trying these things and failing, it's different than if you're just not doing them at all.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good question. If we're just saying, I'm not going to even try that thing, then I don't know that we are disciples of Jesus, because the whole point of a disciple is that you follow and try to obey.
We could be believers in Jesus. We could say our faith system is influenced by Jesus, but to say we're a disciple of Jesus, I don't think so.
Man, that's crazy. I've never thought of it that way. That's intense.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, there was a person who stopped me in the lobby yesterday, and I'm still kind of figuring out how I felt about it. She said, she started to cry, and she said, if you have a bad heart, she said, I don't know what to do. Something like, I don't know what to do about myself. Now, there was a lot of, okay, the guy on stage, the pastor, blah, 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 he has a good heart. No, the fact is, so it is hard. It's a hard thing to even say out loud, I think I have a bad heart.
Yeah.
That's a very hard thing. And to even analyze yourself. So,
but if you don't, you can't change it.
Right.
Or there's like, I think that with a lot of things, if you're unwilling to acknowledge that you feel a certain way about a person or a group of people, or if you won't even say out loud that you are a certain way or you behave, then there's no way you're getting to step 2. Like that has to be ground zero for change. There's no way if you don't say it. And you probably need to say it to somebody else.
And think about this on a grander scale when all of us, when we're facing this corporately too. Right. This is not just an individual thing. I mean, our country right now is facing wave after wave after wave of this kind of hatred and anger. And what does it look like for a whole community?
Yeah.
To
like at a macro level.
At a macro level, which is, I know, Barry, that's what you were thinking. I mean, with this I mean, it's this election year, which is not proving to be kind.
Not so kind. No.
What's it look like on a macro level? Mm-hmm. What would it look like? I know you, and I love how you've done this, Barry, but you point at us corporately as a church. What if as a church?
What if we had this reputation? Loving our enemies, and
it's a stunning thought. Are we willing to consider that? I don't know.
Every week we close the show, Do Justly, Love Mercy. And this series has me questioning how we balance those two things in regards to our enemies. Because my understanding of justice, my personal understanding of justice, is that bad people with bad hearts get what's coming to them. And to me, that sounds like justice to me. Mm-hmm. And so how do I balance the pursuit and understanding of justice with loving mercy and being merciful with people?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biblical vision of justice, and I think that the same vision that we see picked up by people like Martin Luther King Jr. is a vision of justice where things are made right for those who are marginalized, oppressed, whatever. So things are made right for them. And the oppressor is transformed, where the actual enemy, the one who's causing the oppression, is changed and becomes a source of harmony in life. That's the vision. And I think that's the biblical vision, where it's like, yeah, the day of the Lord is coming. Like injustice will be gone, and the kings of the earth and the empires of the earth will crumble, like all that stuff. And Jesus died for sinners, right? Like including every one of the evil perpetrators of injustice in the world. And so we just have to reconcile with those two tensions. Like it's the vision, the biblical vision of this is a world where injustice is gone and the perpetrators are transformed and redeemed. That's what King was trying for. And not everybody was down with that.
Yeah.
Not everybody was okay with that as a vision.
I'm not totally sure what category to put this in, but it's been on my heart since the beginning of the series and maybe even before. Earlier in one of my questions, I talked about a show that I was watching. I wasn't specific about what show that was, who the people on it were. I didn't name names. And the reason I didn't do that is because I didn't want to say anything out of fear that someone listening might make me an enemy because of simply what I said or how they perceive, like how I see the world. And, they may come to a conclusion about me and make me an enemy based on like what network they think I'm watching or what shows I'm watching or whatever. I feel like we have talked about, like, we do that to some degree. I don't want to borrow trouble, so I don't say the thing that that people maybe who are looking for a fight or looking for an enemy, they get to form this perception of me that's untrue. So there's tons of examples. Like we don't say anything about Ukraine right now or Russia because it's all politicized, or we don't say anything about Israel, Gaza because it's all politicized. And if we say something, somebody may make us an enemy because, these types of things. And so, our audience is church people, yet we still live with this like
fear.
Yeah. So instead of learning to love our enemies and like putting this stuff into practice, we withhold parts of ourselves to prevent the formation of enemies in the first place. So my question is, is that a problem or is that wise?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like I want to be able to say I live in a way where I love my enemies and my enemies love me, yet I withhold a lot, at least publicly.
Right.
And I don't, because I'm scared of making enemies.
Yeah. And when I was saying I yelled at TV, I didn't say who I was yelling at.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't dare say who I was yelling at for that same reason.
There's also a piece of it too that you get tired of explaining why you feel the way you do, and you don't even feel like they want your explanation.
Right.
Like it's not even just, this is what I watch. Would you like to understand why I've chosen that? Or could we have a civil, I don't feel like anybody wants, they just want to villainize you now because you don't watch or think the exact same way they do. So they don't care if you even have a valid reason for it, or you're now their enemy and that's it.
Yeah.
Done.
So I guess the question, is how do we move away from how do we move toward a place where we can even love our enemies, especially in church, instead of withholding parts of ourselves that could formulate enemies
or ill will.
Yeah. Ill will.
Yeah.
I mean, this just takes tremendous wisdom. I think part of it though is, at least in our roles as pastors, I think part of that is knowing that there are certain things that we can do or say, even out of well-intentioned, even biblically sound things that we might do or say that could, in this very high tension time that we're living in, scatter the flock. And if I'm a shepherd and I'm trying to get my flock through this desolate valley to that green grass on the other side, I've got to move them, but I also can't scatter them. I can't, and there are things I could say about my own personal opinions, or even things that I think are completely biblical, but would touch hot buttons that could scatter the flock. And then as a whole, the whole congregation then loses by not all getting to the valley together. And so that's, in my mind, that's like the operating metaphor that I'm always in this like tension. And the Israel-Palestine thing is a great example because we did make one sort of public statement when it was all first happening. And what I said was, I didn't take a side. But what I said was like, we need to be very, very careful what we're being exposed to online. We got to remember that no matter what you read or hear, like you can always add, it's more complicated than that to the end of that. And called basically just that we would demonstrate love and whatever. Now, I have some opinions about the Israel-Palestine conflict, and I think I have some biblically sound considerations that we might have. And so this is the thing I wrestle with all the time. Is it my job as the lead pastor to like help people talk through those things, even though perhaps one of the conclusions or multiple conclusions that I reach are not going to fit into the ideological category or camp that people will want, and therefore they'll reject probably everything, including leaving our church? Like, is it worth having people leave the church because of and there are probably some things that, yes, it is worth it.
Yeah.
But those, I really want to be selective on those because we're dealing with a hyper anxious, hyper divided, immature culture. And we just have to be wise, shrewd even in how we lead. That's how I feel.
I for sure understand and agree with that. I just wish that, like I said, our audience is church people. And if we're going to create an environment or culture where like we actually do practice loving our enemies.
Yeah.
I wish that were more possible than it sometimes feels, where it's like, you can't say something because you're scared of people doing X because they have now made you an enemy, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So you tell me, was this one of the biggest mistakes of my entire time as a pastor?
I know exactly what you're going to say. Yeah.
So it was the Sunday after 9/11.
Yeah.
And we had a concern. I mean, we were all grieving what happened. And we had a conversation, pastoral staff had a conversation. We were concerned that what would happen would be an anti-Muslim backlash.
Yeah.
And so I brought on stage the Sunday after 9/11. I brought on Kirk Ito on the stage to interview him because of what happened to his parents in World War II.
Right. Yep.
His parents, Japanese, were put in Japanese internment camps in Washington.
Yeah.
And she even had to stay in one while he went and fought for the United States.
He went and fought for the United States, but she stayed in an internment camp. And so Kirk and I talked about that in an interview on stage. I thought it was enlightening and I thought it was helpful. But right after the sermon, I had people in my face screaming at me backstage.
Oh.
And so to your point, was that a huge mistake or a wise thing to do?
Yeah.
Right.
I could imagine how many ways you could do a similar thing.
Sure. All the time. Yeah.
And what could happen as a result.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And like, again, as a pastor, with the role of a pastor, the question is, what does the flock need? And that's different than just what is the right thing or what is accurate. But it's a judgment call.
Yeah.
Right?
And like I piled a bunch of terms together, but the culture we're living in right now is it does not help you answer that question. Like, what does the congregation need in knowing we're swimming in hatred?
Right. Right.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, this is the culture that we're living in, where what I do, like broadly, really broadly, is I try to continuously hit home self-giving love. Love your enemies, listening to the words of Jesus, like trying to take these big biblical themes that it's really hard to argue with. And guess what? Even though I've done that, people still leave because we're not trumpeting the thing that they want to be said about when are we going to take a stand on this thing or that thing. So it's like, you're kind of are damned if you do, damned if you don't in every single way because of our cultural.
And now you're going to be in trouble because you said damned.
I know. I just was thinking the same thing.
It's biblical.
Yeah.
It's biblical.
Yeah, it's incredibly tricky. And even if you give a little bit of information, then the assumptions are all over the place. So like, you may not say anything about anything, but assumptions are being made too without any backing or anything. So it's really,
it's really, I guess, unfortunate is probably not aggressive enough of a word that, especially in church, that more often than not, sometimes, more often than not, I live and we live in a way that like withholds who we are versus getting even the chance to love our enemies or having our enemy, that just stinks. And it's not just us, like this happens on a personal level too. It's like, we live in a cancel culture. We live in a, people get, really offended very easily. And so if those things happen, it's like, we're out. We're not even going to try to love our enemies. We're just going to,
or try to just even understand each other. It's like we don't look at each other as human beings once we've decided that you're wrong, I'm right.
Right.
And then you don't matter to me anymore.
Yeah, we're going to assume the absolute worst possible intention behind every statement they make. We're going to, see everything they do through this like twisted lens of like vitriol. Yeah. It's like,
and at the really, really base level, the thing that frustrates me as much as anything else is how many times have you sat in a conversation with someone and they never ask you anything about you?
Right, yeah.
We're living at a time right now where people are scared to shut up, to shut their own mouths and ask a question to the person opposite them to inquire, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? It's almost like a desperate need to cover up everything so that I can make sure I protect my heart.
Yeah.
It's right. We're not even listening to one another. There's no dialogue. There's no dialogue. It's all monologue. Everything's monologue.
Yeah.
There's no dialogue.
Yesterday after church, so this sermon's like fresh in my mind, I went to play golf, and there was a par 3, and I hit an errant shot that almost hit 2 other people, like off in the distance. I almost hit them.
Sounds like you're a great golfer.
No, it was not a good shot. And I said, 4. That's what you're 4 supposed to say. And I was like, man, I'm just going to drive up there and apologize, because that was pretty close. I almost hit them and whatever. So I drove up to apologize to them. I'm like, guys, I'm really sorry. I did not obviously mean to do that or whatever. And they just did not respond well. And and so in my mind, I'm like, they think I have a bad heart. And now because of their reaction, they have a bad heart.
Yeah.
They have a bad heart.
And I do have a bad heart now because they reacted like that.
And instead of even getting the chance to like love my enemy or whatever, they just were like, no, we're done. Like, you shouldn't even be out here.
And that's the worst feeling ever. Like when you try to do the right thing and then it feels really yucky when the response is not met. Yeah. You're not met well. Yeah, that's not fun.
So in talking about how to get a good heart, Dave, you said one of the things Jesus talks about is being born again. And this was really provocative for me. For some of us, we thought we already did that. We already did that in our spiritual journeys. Yet for some of us, we still don't love our enemies, even though we're followers or just disciples of Jesus. And your response is that being born again doesn't only need to happen once. What did you mean by that? And let's talk about that for a second.
Well, if you interpret the passage as when he says, unless you're born again, you won't see the kingdom of God. If you interpret that, see the kingdom of God as in go to heaven when you die, well, then it's going to sound like it's the thing, it's the ticket, it's your key.
Yeah.
All right. But if you understand the passage, see the kingdom is to experience the values of the kingdom and experience, as Barry talks about all the time, and I agree with that, walking into this new place where Jesus reigns, then being born again is not something that's limited to once in your life. It's something because I need to be renewed again.
Yeah, that was a revelation to me too.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. That like we are seeing the kingdom of God right in front of us as we as his followers help move that forward. And so as I renew myself in some of these areas that I'm deficient or not seeing it correctly, if I'm renewing my mind and spirit in that area, then I'm going to see a whole new facet that I never saw before because I wasn't I wasn't there yet.
Yeah, you weren't in the right posture to see it or experience it in your heart.
I was like, oh my gosh, it's almost like on the daily. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's almost like every day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm born again. And what today, if I open myself up to it, will I see differently because I've allowed the Spirit to work in me in ways that I haven't before today, because today's a new day. It's a different day than yesterday. That was huge for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus says, pick up your cross daily and follow me.
Yeah.
And it's that same thing. Die to yourself, be reborn. That's
new
how
wineskin.
Yeah.
It's a how many times in our life do we go, oh, here I am again? I don't care whether whether it's your weight, whether it's your golf game, whether it is
poison ivy.
Yeah, poison ivy. It's like, here I am again. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to start over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's the way we do life. And Jesus was saying the same thing. You literally, to be born again means to take it from the top.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, take it from the top. Amy, you know
Yes,
it.
I
You
know
know
what
exactly
that
what
means. I
that
do.
means.
Yep.
Everybody, let's take it from the top. That scene was terrible.
I've never said that. Yeah. I
Oh,
have.
yes, you have.
Over and over.
But yeah,
It's so, and you're right. I mean, it is all over scripture. I don't know why yesterday was like an aha for me. Like, I know all those passages, I know all those verses. But even when you look at relationships and all that, like, even this whole idea of like, this hasn't worked well in this relationship, I'm not loving them well. Let's take it from the top tomorrow. Maybe, I mean, I even think of in marriage or in relationships like that, like how often we easily fall back into patterns. But if we continue to say, that's okay, it's okay. Like, that's not the end of the world that we are back where we were 2 years ago. We'll take it from the top again tomorrow. We'll be born again tomorrow, and maybe it'll be better tomorrow. And then the next day, maybe it's a little bit of a relief in some ways that like, okay, today wasn't the best,
right.
but I can strive for more tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And throw another metaphor in. I mean, he talks about in John 3, he talks about the wind blow or the Holy Spirit blowing. You don't know where it's coming from. It's like when you're born again or when you have one of those moments, open up the windows.
Mm.
Open up the windows and let the Holy Spirit, as an act of surrender, just come in and do whatever you need to do. Just blow where you need to blow in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good.
Every time we have a baptism service, we also have this station of candles where it's like, if you need to renew your faith or recommit or whatever, that's where you go. I feel like that line should be a lot longer.
Oh,
like
sure.
we should have a lot more candles if people just because
absolutely.
if this is a daily thing, like we should have a lot more people doing that.
Sure.
So maybe we need to get a bunch more candles.
I don't know. Maybe lighting candles is the wrong image. Not wrong. Maybe they're it's stupid what you're doing. I just want to tell you, it's really dumb.
And now you are my enemy.
I've kept my mouth shut for too long. No.
Shut up.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Maybe there is some. What if you could go and open the windows?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just making that up.
Yeah.
How come we don't open the things
They
anymore
don't
in the
work.
auto?
They're stuck.
Okay.
Really?
don't
All
have,
of them are
We
stuck
don't have the
now?
money to buy the motors to
Okay.
replace
Yeah,
all
all
the
the motors are
motors.
burnt out.
Okay, well.
It would be cool when we sing that song that says,
Open up the
open
window.
up the windows.
window. We
let
did
the-
that once.
Let the light in if
That
we
was
open up
that's
the
what burned
windows.
out the
But
motors.
we
get
can't
hand
do
cranks.
it anymore. We can't do it anymore. Yeah, we can have somebody rolling it up
Each one at a time.
one at a time. It kind of defeats the purpose. But
yeah.
by the end of the service, they're all open, but not by the end of the song.
What did you might be bringing this. What did you think of Rohr's image of walking the plank?
Yeah, that was fascinating too. It's like walking the plank is always like a bad thing.
Yeah, right.
Because pirates are making you do it or whatever. But it makes sense. Like walking, like completely surrendering. Like when you walk the plank, you're completely surrendered to what's below and your faith and all that stuff. But doing that to basically stop living one life and going and plunging into a new one, it was fascinating to me.
And the idea that walking the plank is dangerous.
Oh yeah,
It's a dangerous
because you don't have a ship.
And you don't know what you're facing at the end of that plank. But the idea that if I start anew, I can face whatever I need to face with the Holy Spirit. And it is an act of faith.
It's when I got to the end of the message, when I was working on the message, I thought, how do I describe this mysterious thing, this changing of the heart. And then I realized every metaphor, every allegory, I can always mix up whether metaphors or allegories, but they're all mysterious. And so there's no way to actually say, well, you got to do this, and then you do this, and then it's a mystery.
Yeah.
Of changing our hearts. It's mysterious.
Yeah. So I was wrestling with like the question of, okay, so what do we do? How do we change our heart? And like you said, I kept coming up short because I'm like, that's not a good question because nobody really has like a solid answer. So one of the questions I wrote down was like, all right, if I decide I'm going to change my heart, are there like predictable obstacles that I'm going to face when I'm trying to transform my heart? Like what, not how do I overcome it, but are there things that roadblocks, obstacles that I'm going to face that I can at least look out for when in my efforts to change it?
Loving an enemy once is easy, kind of, compared to loving your enemies as like a lifestyle. And so I think one of the obstacles is we can do things by sheer willpower once. Like that's not the hard thing. The hard thing is becoming the kind of person that can do it. And so the roadblock is when you start trying to will yourself to do that hard thing again, and your response physiologically is just like, I don't want to.
I already did that.
I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
That's inevitably, that's one of the hard, that's any kind of like transformation. I can't think of the number of times that I thought after some like personal retreat, I was like, all right, I'm going to start journaling. I'm going to start praying every day. I'm going to start doing quiet times, whatever. And then like I got a couple days in and I'm like, I am crushing this. My life has changed. And then I missed a day. Oh, shoot. Well, I'll do it tomorrow. And then the next day I'm like, shoot, how about, and I do it one more time and then I forget about it entirely. It's the same thing with any of this transformation stuff.
That's why I said when I came back from sabbatical, I liked who I was so much. Part of that was because I wasn't grinding out every day and I had so much time. Every morning was started with a good half hour to 45 minutes. Sometimes it was just me sitting there and like just waiting for him to say what he needed to say. And it took me about all of 2 seconds to be back and not, and I need it more when I'm in the grind than I did when I was on sabbatical. And so I'm like, I got out my journal today and I was like, it's been almost 3 weeks. I'm like, that's ridiculous. I was doing it on the daily. Yeah. And now, and I have a bad heart right now. Like I'm mad a lot. I told you on the road, I think everyone's out to get me. Like, I literally think everyone, they're like, and it's because I'm not finding the time. I'm not taking the time. I'm not making the time, whatever. I'm a much better person. I feel it in every area of my life when I am taking the time to do that. And it doesn't even have to be like 3 hours. It can be 30 minutes. But I think the whole time is underrated and undervalued in our spiritual journey. Like just, you can't have a relationship with someone you don't spend any time with.
I'm just wondering if you were the one who was in front of me when I was driving down Meridian the other day. I almost included this in my sermon. There was a person in front of me who had 3 bumper stickers on the back of their car.
Well, wouldn't it be me? Because I don't put any bumper stickers that say anything about me loving Jesus or any church because I know people will think that.
Let me read them.
Okay.
This may relate to you.
It probably does.
One bumper sticker said, "Warning, I hate stupid people."
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
Another one said, "Calm down, Karen."
Oh, nice.
Well, I've been called a Karen.
And my
before,
favorite was, "You matter. I mean, not to me, but to someone."
Oh man, that person's
no, but I
Setting
do
us
have
straight.
that attitude sometimes in my bad heart.
Yeah,
I do. So
yeah.
anyway,
But back to your question, if you're asking the question, "What do I do now?" That's 90% of what it takes to get there.
It's a good start. Yeah,
It's the only start. The fact that, and I have a new conviction over the last 5 years. I've watched this in my clients and even in my own life. The number one value, if a person pays attention to their life, and I used to say this a lot when I was preaching too, but paying attention to your life is ground zero of personal change. As long as you're paying attention and recognize the fact that something's going wrong. That's 90% of it.
Yeah.
90%.
That's good.
Yeah, well, even in counseling, I've tried to identify when I'm off.
Yeah.
My counselor asks me all the time, can you notice when you're going off the rails? Like when you're, and that is helpful to know, oh yeah, I'm in, this isn't good. I got to do something to redirect.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to be using that take it from the top from here on out. Like
Take it from the top.
It'd be like every day, my kids, take it from the top, everybody. Try again.
We'll take it from the top tomorrow.
Karen.
Yeah. Gosh. That's funny.
Dave, thanks for the sermon. It was great. And it was a great ending to a great series. I don't know. Barry, were you nervous about this series? Like the response to it or?
Maybe just a little bit, but I knew that I figured the way we could handle it, the way we'd approach it would not be divisive intentionally. My only worry, which was true, was that people would feel really convicted and would maybe not want to engage as deeply because they feel like, ugh, but they stay engaged.
Do you wish you would have gone deeper or differently? Do you feel like, I don't know, but do you feel like you missed something or not?
I don't think I missed anything. I think this is such a difficult topic. And like one of my applications was literally be a disciple of Jesus. I mean, that's like a lifelong journey. So
check.
Yeah. So like that one takeaway from one message is like my life's work for people. So it's, there's so much more that could be done, but I'm glad that we went there and I'm glad that we kind of laid that foundation.
I wonder if we need to provide something here. I'm putting some, in the fall too, as we move toward like, is there a one-off evening that we revisit this at a deeper level or I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes
or pray. Or a corporate prayer around the subject.
Yeah, as we move in. I've heard a couple of people say, are we going to talk about this again when we get closer to particularly November and the election? And because it feels like, a lot of people are going to forget. I don't know.
I thought it was great.
I'm sure they'll remember everything.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, I thought it was a great series. Hard.
I really appreciated it.
Yeah.
So with that said, what are we doing next?
Summerfest. It is Summerfest. Friends of the pod, we are going to be doing...
You don't even need to do that. I've got all the sound effects right here.
All month of July, it is a single service time, 10 a.m. for the whole church, and it's going to be great. It was great last year. It's going to be great this year. The way the sermons work this year, instead of answering hard questions that kids ask, we are going to be kind of riffing on that theme of explain it like I'm 5. So we're going to be looking at 4 big topics like the humanity and divinity of Jesus, the grace of God, et cetera. And we're going to do a little mini sermon geared towards a 5-year-old, a little mini sermon geared towards a 15-year-old, and a mini sermon geared towards a 50-year-old. So same concept explained 3 different ways. Yeah. I'm excited. It's going to be great. It's
going to be a fun month. We have a cookout on the 14th, all sorts of fun things coming up.
Baptisms, 21st.
Yep. Lots of fun stuff.
Yeah. It's always a little nerve wracking when we change our service time to be like, people aren't going to remember this, and they won't.
Well, Jeff really hit it this weekend. Jeff Unruh, he was hosting and he must have said it 6 times.
Yeah, 10
When
a.m.
are we starting next week? 10 a.m.
Yeah. I remember we did it for the first time last year, and there were people showing up on both ends.
Yeah, of course.
9, 15, 11. But hopefully everybody got the message this year, and we'll.
If not, they can have a cup of coffee. And wait for the service to start.
Yep, they can.
If they come too early.
Yeah. All right. July is going to be a little weird, maybe touch and go with the pod. I'm not totally sure. I haven't looked at your guys' schedule, but I'm out a couple weeks, so we'll try to figure out what we're doing. But Dave, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
It's great seeing you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Hopefully we'll see you again this year, so it's not another 2.5 year hiatus.
I think I'm preaching in September, so it won't be too long.
Have you back.
Cool. With that said, Amy, let's wrap up Undivided, and can you please send us out?
Now I'm scared. Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God.
And we'll see you on the other side of Sunday.